didn't see you there. My name is Kennedy Flores, and I've been a TRiO intern for the 2015 to 2016 academic year.
My name is Jhana Williams, and I'm a TRiO Outreach and Retention Intern for the 2015-2016 academic year.
Hello, my name is Beto. I was an Outreach and Retention Intern for the 2015-2016 academic year.
My name is Madeline Rider, and I was the lead Outreach and Retention Intern for the 2015-2016 academic year.
Originally when I was hired, I thought that this was a secretary job and I would be kind of doing more work on the computer, and I didn't really realize how much of it was going to be me creating my own job. There were problems with the fact that there wasn't really any intention towards what the internship was going to be like originally, and there was just no support whatsoever, so it was kind of like feel it out yourself, try to figure it out yourself, and it was hard, but it was really cool.
I was told about the internship about Stacia before I left to Bolivia, so I didn't have a very clear idea of what it would be, but I imagined it would be pretty much you would be some kind of an assistant for the advisors. And so I just thought it would be a lot of reception, maybe getting coffee, things like that, like typical movie stuff. So I really had no idea what it would entail aside from the job description.
When I was first hired with the internship, I felt like I was first thinking this was just a place for me to gain my leadership skills, and also just become an advocate for the TRiO program. I was a student I forgot what the class was called. It was a 2-credit course Felix was teaching during winter quarter, and it was fall quarter actually, and I got an insight of what TRiO is all about. Was like first gen low income students, and so when the application came out, I was like, okay, this can be a chance for me to learn more about the program and be affiliated with the program and learn about myself as a leader here at Evergreen. And I was a freshman, so I just felt like it was a good opportunity for just me to be a part of something, because I needed a community to be a part of.
So I was hired into the Outreach and Retention internship in June of 2015. I kind of knew that the program was going to be in development when I was hired, but I didn't know how in development it was going to be. I thought there would be more of a framework than actually existed, but I guess I did think that I would be in a position where I could help students, and so I didn't know that I was going to be helping to plan a summer institute. That was kind of sprung on me, but I did know that I would be able to do the kind of work that I really like to do, which is student leadership, which is using my experience as a student to maximize outreach and resources for other students like myself. So that's kind of what I thought it would be going in. And that is basically what I experienced. However, there was a lot of development that hadn't happened yet. And so a lot of the work that us interns during the 2015-2016 academic year have done is to create a framework to do that development work, so that all the future interns, you guys get to pick up where we left off, and not have to start from scratch.
I've always had positions that were where I needed to have permission to leave or to do anything that I wanted to do, and so when I came into the internship, I thought it was kind of the same way, that I needed to make sure that everybody knew what I was doing and where I was going, and that I had to stay in my space in the cubicle working on the computer, and that's how I would get my work done. It wasn't until about week 5 that I figured out that wasn't the case. And so I also just didn't know how to deal with the freedom that we had. I was told that we would have a lot of freedom to do what we wanted, and again, I had no idea what to do with that freedom. So that was something that was pretty difficult for me to figure out, and I wasn't very clear on that from the beginning.
I thought I was going to be like almost like an assistant for there's going to be hierarchies in this internship, so I was thinking that I was like working underneath all the TRiO staff here, and so whatever they needed from me, I was going to work for them. And I was like, because when I think of internship or job internship, I always think of job shadowing, but that is not the format here. And also like the scheduling and just like following like a exact schedule and making sure you do that same task every day. That's what I thought this internship was going to be about too, which that's not true either. There's a lot of like flexibility and like there's a lot of chances to do innovative, creative work, which I had no idea about.
I'd say the biggest misconception I had about the internship was related to the funding structure of TRiO Student Success. Because we're a federal program, meaning we're funded by federal dollars, there's a lot of rules and regulations attached to what we can do with our money. And so whereas I had come from a leadership program where I had a lot of autonomy, where I could basically spend the money on what I wanted to, and within some boundaries. Like, I wanted to create a program, I wanted to buy a bunch of pizza, I wanted to invite a ton of people. There weren't a lot of rules and regulations. If I was serving students, then I was going to be able to use money for that. So coming into TRiO, I think I was operating under the assumption that if there were rules, they could be bent. And that's true to a certain extent. But the reality is that our federal funding needs to go towards our caseload students, so people who are enrolled in the program. And that's been one of the biggest frustrations, because there's so many students who are TRiO eligible, meaning that they qualify for our programs, but they're not enrolled in our program because of we can only serve 180 students due to funding limitation and staff limitations, honestly, too. And so that was a misconception I had coming in, that I was going to be able to help whoever I wanted, that I was going to be able to spread these services far and wide, when really, unfortunately, our funding regulations limit. But that doesn't mean that we can't be flexible, and it doesn't mean that the staff aren't well versed in navigating those regulations. So my experience has been is that while there are certain things that I can't do, or I ended up not being able to do, the staff, particularly the program coordinator, kind of went above and beyond to try and help navigate that, so that I could get as close to my ideal as possible.
When exactly is the internship? What will we be doing? What will we be asked to do? How do I pretty much do everything? What will I need to know? What will I learn? How much am I expected to do?
What projects am I allowed to do? Allowed. Madeline, our lead intern, would always get on us about that. So I'll come back to that word, allowed. What does collaborative work feel and look like? And how can I have the right to create my own job description? Basically, I answered all these questions through experience and speaking up and just asking those questions and like sharing those concerns through our weekly meetings. So when you're an intern here with the TRiO internship, you get a chance to meet with all the other interns, the whole group together as a whole, to speak about how you're doing and what you're working on and what we need to look forward to next for the next coming weeks to work on. And you can also have an opportunity to talk about things that you need to bring up that you probably didn't get a chance to see one of your interns, like you never see him on Mondays or Tuesdays. You can bring it up on that meeting on a Friday or Thursday, depending on how you guys set up the schedule. And so, yeah, those questions I was like really concerned about, like how can I do a project by myself, or how can I do a project with another student without getting permission in the first place. Like we get to actually make the ideas first and actually like write up a proposal ourselves and try it out and experiment with it without asking permission. And then coming back to the word allowed, we are the ones that set the standards for ourselves, and we get to set what we can handle, what we can't, and what's fair and what's just for ourselves and with the other interns. So that was like a huge question, and I always asked, like the first time I was here, I was always like a deer headlights, like, okay, I can actually leave to the bathroom, I actually can do this work later on at home, I can actually like, there's like so much freedom. And that's something you definitely need to be okay with, is to take initiative and enjoy your freedom with this internship.
So it was a lot of just interacting with other people, talking to the other interns, talking to the staff, and figuring out, I guess, day by day what it needs to be done.
When I started the internship, I really was at a loss as to how this program was going to function. I didn't know how the staff were going to support, like what kind of support I was to receive from my position. I didn't know really what was being asked of me to a large extent in my roles and responsibilities as an intern. And what I found is that was really up to me. In fall quarter, it really was just 2 interns, myself and Kennedy. And we had the opportunity and the burden, I would say both, of creating jobs for ourselves. We figured out like what we were gonna do with this space, and that was really inspiring. It was really, really hard, but it was really, really inspiring because I had all these questions and there wasn't a lot of support in helping me answer them. So I answered them myself. And that kind of became the framework for the program, the internship, as it moves forward. Is that how can we have an environment in which we are supported and empowered by our staff, but we are ultimately in direction of our own learning and our own work as autonomous, awesome students. And so I'd say I had tons of questions that didn't get answered the way that they maybe could have, but instead what came out of it was something that you're benefiting from today.
Collaborative leadership, we did a lot of that with this internship. We worked together on a lot of these projects that we invented, and we would have meetings every Thursday, and we would facilitate meetings. Like, everyone was equal. There wasn't anyone who was better than anybody else. We really helped each other out.
Participating in the whole process. Everybody has a voice. Everybody is part of the process, and so it's not just about voting. It's not about a single voice being a leader. It's about everyone taking the leadership role.
To me, collaborative leadership means that each person involved is a leader, that there's not just one person who's in charge of everything, who's making all the decisions and just asking for, the support of the other team members. Like, that word team to me is really important in collaborative leadership, and the idea that, we are equals, and equals but different, in that, like, we all bring different skills, we all bring different strengths and different weaknesses, and so each individual gets to like contribute those strengths and to the group, and they are an expert at their own experience, right? We are experts at our own experiences, and we all have something to contribute and give. So collaborative leadership is an acknowledgement of that. And it kind of puts everyone on equal footing to engage in project management and teamwork.
So consensus decision making, we did a lot of that during this internship. Someone would bring up an idea in a meeting, and sometimes someone would have a differing idea or have just something else to bring up, and usually with stuff like that, it would be, for the most part, 2 people, the person with the original idea and the person who brought up the new idea, and we would work together as much as we could to make it 50-50, both ideas work, or sometimes the person who had the original idea would be like, I like the second idea better, you know, that would work really well. But it was always based on what we all mutually agreed would work best and what we felt would be helpful for students, you know, and helpful for us, and wouldn't stress us out too much.
To me, consensus decision making means that we come to an agreement, that each person that is participating in a project is doing so because they want to. They've got both feet in, you know, there's not like, we try and minimize reservations, meaning that if somebody has an issue, or maybe so one team member proposes a project and then another team member is like kind of skeptical or worried about an aspect of the project, or maybe has some expertise that from, you know, their experience that they feel like they can contribute, we have a conversation about that. We don't vote, you know, and maybe that'll change in the future. It really depends on the needs of the group, but consensus means that we're not voting, that it isn't majority rules, because, you know, what can happen there is, you know, a majority of a small group decides on, you know, a possible decision, and it means that, you know, maybe one or two people in the group get left out, and that's, you know, could be close to, you know, 40 to 50% of the group. That's a big, you know, big amount of people to be dissatisfied, and it affects morale, right, within the team. And so consensus, a lot of people are adverse to that, but we feel like it's, you know, like we have felt that it's really important. I have really believed that, you know, it's worth the extra time to have a conversation. It's worth the extra time to maybe have some uncomfortable conversations about disagreements or difficulties, but that ultimately, like, having everyone be on the same page means that our work is going to pay off in sustainable and long-term ways.
So in my experience with mutual accountability, I would send emails, people would send emails to me to make sure that we're all keeping on task. We would have, for a while, we would have a list of, each intern would have a list of stuff that they had to do for that week, which really helped us out in like figuring out what exactly we needed to do and making sure that if we didn't finish it, that everyone else might be able to see and be like, hey, I noticed you didn't finish this thing on time, or I noticed you didn't work on this, do you want help?
For me, it means holding yourself accountable, and then holding each other accountable, but also the group holding each other accountable. So it's on many different levels. It's not just about yourself or someone else. It's about the whole group.
To me, mutual accountability means that I am accountable to my teammates, and my teammates are accountable to me. That if I am not showing up in my roles and responsibilities, especially the roles and responsibilities that we've agreed upon as a group, that I am accountable to my teammates, and I hope that they will let me know. I hope they'll let me know when I'm not following through. And so mutual accountability and kind of a shared principle of mutual accountability is kind of the assumption that this is the way that we're gonna work, is that we're gonna, push each other a little bit to live up to our, stated goals and ideals, and that when that doesn't happen, we're gonna let each other know, and that it's in the spirit of teamwork and collaboration, and that any criticism that's given is not personal. It's not, it's for the betterment of the group, and so that's what I think mutual accountability means.
Giving each other time, because I think some of us had a hard time figuring out how to deal with our time and how to manage our time. And so reciprocity meant, for me, giving each other time, not only just to teach and to collaborate, but to figure out how do we make our time the most productive. So reciprocity for me was a lot more about being there for each other and supporting each other.
Reciprocity is one of my favorite ideas because it means that it's connected to that mutual accountability. It's also connected to that collaborative leadership and that consensus decision making. To me, that's kind of reciprocity is the thing that ties all these values and principles together, because it's we give equally and we give without asking in return. I mean, I show up to this job and I follow through with my responsibilities and I listen to my teammates because I want to. Not because I feel like I owe anyone anything, not because I feel like I'm gonna get something in return and I'm just doing this so that this person's gonna listen to my opinion in the future, or it's because I want to and because I see the value in giving unconditionally. And I know for myself and how I feel is that if I model that, if I model unconditional giving, it's pretty hard to refute the power of that. And so I may not, in any given situation, I may not immediately get what I want. I'm not giving to receive, but I feel better about myself. I'm keeping my side of the street clean. I'm showing up with what I do have control over, and that's myself, right? And so that shared value in the internship means that that's kind of the place that we're all trying to come from. And we're imperfect and stuff comes out sometimes, but really, like, each one of us is just trying to show up as the best version of ourselves that we can, so that we can work most efficiently as a team for ultimately the service of other students on campus, specifically TRiO students and other marginalized students, like who have experienced some of the things that we've experienced in life.
Basically, if I can sum up all those terms, I would say leaderful, which is a term that one of our lead interns would speak upon in one of our weekly meetings. And I really like that term because it basically means that everyone is a leader and everyone has an important piece of the pie, and everyone has a say, and everyone has a fair opportunity to do the work that we're doing. So there's no hierarchy. Yes, there would be a leader per se, because you need some type of structure and some type of format to make sure we're not all over the place. But for the most part, leaderful, being collaborative leadership, being mutually accountable, is that everyone has each other's back, and that is something that will look different probably in every group, depending on what the next internship. The next staff interns will function, how they would function together. So every group will be unique, but specifically through my experience, what I learned is communication is huge. You need to make sure you always tell what's going on. If you're sick, you need to say that right away. If you can't come into work, you have to explain yourself why. And you also got to be accountable to make sure you do come into work. You can't just show up to not go to work because you don't feel like it. If you signed up for this position, you come and show up and do your best. But you also know that you can lean on someone else, and that person can lean on to you. So it's not just all about you, it's about everyone else. And so constantly being mindful of that looks different in so many contexts, and I feel like I can ramble on and on about it, but it definitely takes first experience and a lot of failing and making mistakes and recapping and coming together as a group.
When Madeline and I first started this internship, there was pretty much no system set up for us whatsoever. That's when the student power really came through. We worked together to pretty much create the foundation for this internship. We had pretty much no support from the staff. It was mostly us trying to do our best to not break down and, not feel stressed about this job that we were given. And somehow we managed to get through that first quarter, and the second quarter we had a new team and we had some sort of stability to this job, and together we created really great programs. We had a lot of students come into our workstation. One of our interns created a TED Talks presentation every Tuesday, which was really awesome. Madeline did a thumb drive give back, so we could give students thumb drives if they needed one, and it was just amazing to see that so many students could work together to really make something work, and even when we were given nothing.
For me, the student power means understanding that as students we have a lot of skill sets and a lot of knowledge that is important to create change.
So the last question kind of explains this question a little bit, but it's student power. We get to basically claim our spaces and respect our needs. So student power, it's there. I mean, there's a lot that's going on. Most of us are like, if you're a freshman, sophomore, you're still learning how to be an adult. There's a lot of different age groups in college, and like here being a student intern, you get a chance to like be aware of all those diverse perspectives and diverse lifestyles, and we get to respect that and honor that in our space. So we protect that versus having a teacher facilitate what we're talking about and what work we want to produce in the internship. And we also like we get to student powers, like we're like students that are working along professionals. So we're here in the office in the heart of SAS, which stands for student something.
Academic and support services.
Student academic support services,
Yeah.
right. So we're here in the office, so we get exposure to like all these different people doing different things for the grand Evergreen State College campus. And we as students obviously are here just trying to get by, getting our academic credit, and hopefully we will graduate. And so as interns, we get a chance to get exposed to that professional world, but also infuse that with helping the needs of the students here. So since we're students, we have an insight on what it's like to be a student here at Evergreen, especially being a person of color, first generation student. And so when we see something that's being advertised, say with the professionals, we can speak on that because our internship legitimizes our position. So we can be like, hey, we don't agree with that. We have an alternative to make students feel more at home. So like one thing we started to do was one of our interns is Roberto. He was thinking to have more like a way to get people together in community work, which is called TED Talk Tuesdays. And that was just a little project, but we're seeing a whole vision of like how can we bring people together to feel comfortable on campus, because it's hard to be a first gen student being a TRiO student here on campus. And so we're aware of those things, and we get to advocate for those issues and for ourselves. So it's like the best of both worlds.
I honestly believe in my heart that we have so much power as students, and I feel like a lot of the bureaucracy and kind of like what feels like meaningless like rigmarole that we experience as a result of being a student is there to prevent us from realizing that ultimately that if we collect our voices together, we have the power to demand what we want from this school, demand what we want from our education. And so I feel like the role of the internship and kind of what us interns have been working for this last year is a framework in which capacities can be developed so that we can better collect our voices, so that we can make our voices louder, like figuratively and realistically, literally, and that I hope that every student one day gets the opportunity to have the kind of leadership training and capacity building that we get to experience as interns. For now, we get to use this space as an opportunity to grow and develop our own skills and our abilities to share those skills. I think that student power is the thing that's going to change this college into one that really can serve all the needs of its students.
nothing is impossible. If you have an idea and you really think that it could work, bring it up to the team and we can help you out. I will be here for the new quarter and I have a lot of experience with how everything runs. I know different contacts and yeah, literally nothing is impossible. You can do it if you really think about it and plan it and do tons of documents for it. But once you finish all that boring paperwork, you can really go out there and create something and help students out. It's really exciting. You might need help from different staff, or sometimes you might have to reach out to different places on campus, but that's just another part of being a TRiO intern.
You have a lot to who you are, and that's important. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, because you'll make mistakes. This is a space for building skills. You'll have support from your fellow interns and hopefully from the staff. And it's definitely a space to create what you want to create. And you can't be afraid to make mistakes or not know what you're doing, because coming into this, I had no idea what I was doing. And just, I guess, building the confidence to kind of just go out and do it. That was kind of just the advice that I had from the lead, was just do it. And so, yeah, just know that you have skills and that you're strong, and that the mistakes you make are building skills that you'll need later on. So
I have two things that I wrote down. One is be yourself, and I mean that not just like coming in and being obnoxious, because if you like to be loud all the time like me, then sometimes you might not need to tone it down. But what I mean by being yourself is, like, when you come into work, know that what skills you have and where you come from and who you are, it matters. And don't hinder that, because this is a place where you can showcase those things in a positive way, in a very bigger scale. You can use who you are to a whole new level, if that makes sense. So, like, if you are all about the arts, or if you are all about social justice, which I hope you are, because we do that here, you can use that you can use your skills and who you are to professional projects, to new initiatives for the TRiO program here at Evergreen State College. And so that is one big advice. The second big advice is always ask questions. Don't be afraid to mess up. Don't be afraid to be wrong. I think that's something I personally struggled with, is like when you have a position of some sort, like you have some type of leadership role, say you're the president of a club, or say you are an intern here, you feel like you need to have everything right because you have a job, you are given this opportunity, and if you mess up, then it's like, oh my gosh, all hell's gonna break out and you're gonna get fired. Remember, this is an internship, so this is a place to learn. It's not a place to be perfect. It's a place to actually mess up, and then you get credit for that. You get paid to mess up. Isn't that like, that's why we want you to get working here.
I'd say my biggest advice for students and future interns is to be comfortable with freedom. Be comfortable taking charge of your time here, of contributing ideas, even if they seem too big, even if they seem unrealistic. Be comfortable contributing that, and don't be afraid of asking for help either. Don't be afraid from asking for help from your teammates, because we all have to lean on each other at some point, and letting go of that like pride and ego that stands in the way of admitting that maybe we don't know something, or maybe we have a question or something like that that we're ashamed to ask. Letting go of that means you get to ask that question. It means you get to get an answer like easily and simply, without like without having to feel ashamed. There's never there's never a bad question.
Remember this looks good on your resume. This is something that will help you in the future. So really give your all here, but also know this is a learning experience. Again, this is an internship, but really know this is a stepping stone to your career. And it doesn't matter what career you're actually looking into. If you're looking at education, or you're looking to be a doctor, if you're looking to being I don't know, I mean, y'all know what I'm talking about. But, like, just, like, know that this is a chance for you to build yourself professionally and as a whole person. And I think that's why this TRiO internship is so great.